One big misconception that's gone around is that you have to have buyer agency to show a home. You don't. You have to have a written agreement. But everyone's saying you must have buyer agency. You don't have to have agency. You have to have a written agreement explaining what you're doing and if you're getting compensated for that. It's simple. There's so many misconceptions. So one, I would say if you feel like you aren't getting the information from your broker or your team leader, you probably should make a change. That would be the first thing. And I know that's kind of harsh. Go read the settlement, first and foremost. Read your forms. Everybody's forms have changed. Have you read your forms? I was in a class a week ago and the instructor asked, have you read the forms? And like 3 people raised their hand out of 50. Like people haven't even read the forms. They don't know what the changes are. Our purchase contract just changed. Some people don't even know that. Somebody said the other day, what section is that in? So if you don't know your forms and your laws and your rules, you are in a bad place.
You are listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world. We talk with the real estate professionals all across North America, but their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name's Cody from Sheridan Stream, joined by Vikram Deol of Sheridan Street. It's very,
sounds weird, doesn't it?
Yes, it sounds very weird saying that. For those that don't know, Vikram and I made the decision to partner together, and we're actually, we're both running our 9 months ago. Yeah. But I've been saying the Real Estate Sales Academy for so long that like as soon as I like transition to, now I have to change the intro of the podcast, but that's neither here nor there. What are you up to, man? What's good? You're back in Medellin. You had a Nashville event last week. How did the Nashville event go? Yeah. With Sharon and everyone?
It's always good to hang out with people smarter than you. I mean,
it helps.
Live events change lives. I think the biggest thing that I took away, you're actually far away, but I think the biggest thing I took away was there's some things that I've been holding on to since I was in my like early 20s that you don't realize are affecting you and keeping you stuck. Like it's just, it kind of becomes part of your persona. And I was talking to David, we're on a bus ride from, I don't know, lunch or something, going to Aaron's house. And he goes, I don't think you're being punished by anybody but yourself. And I was like, whoa. And it made a lot of sense. And since then, I feel like 200-pound gorilla off my back. So live events with the right people change lives. And, when you get in a room full of like heart-centered entrepreneurs, they see things that they might have been through. So yeah, man, it's been it was a good week. And where in the world is Carmen Cody May?
Spain, Madrid, Spain right now. It is currently 7:00 at night. It's very weird, I'm still not used to this time zone, and I fly back tomorrow. I've been traveling through Barcelona. We did Barcelona, then we did Mallorca, we did Murcia, and then we, last stop was Madrid. So, we've been on the road for the last 3.5, 4 weeks, and I am ready to go home, and I'm ready to sleep in my own bed, and I am ready to, get back into just a routine more than anything. We have one of our director of sales and development coming to town next weekend. So,
Super cool.
We're going to be doing pretty stoked about that, but things are good, man. Things are good. We have a special guest today. We have a guest that's going to join us on the podcast, a guest all the way from Utah. We're all in like a different space of the world right now, which is always fun that we have the opportunity to kind of chat with Reggan. Reggan today is from Utah. Reggan. I got it right. I asked her in the green room.
Like the president.
I asked her in the green room. I had to say it like 7 times in order to make sure that I didn't screw it up. We met in a Facebook group. I think it was a real estate mastermind. We met in. There's tons of agents all across North America. And we put out a post saying, hey, we're looking to interview more real estate team leads that are doing really cool things. And Reggan has a background in real estate over 20 years. She's been a broker of record, but rather than me share your background, why don't you share a little bit about kind of like how you got in the industry, what you're up to within 60 seconds, and then we can kind of get into some tactics of what's working, what's not working, some losses, some wins, all that good stuff.
So I'm Reggan. I am located in Heber, Utah, right outside of Park City, about 15 minutes outside of Park City. So we work in the Park City market as well. I've been in real estate about 20 years. I got my start in title and then transitioned over and got my real estate license, which is going on 18 years. I owned my own indie brokerage for 7 years. And about 2.5 years ago, Coldwell Banker called and we folded up shop and went to Coldwell, and I ran their Park City office for 2 years and just actually stepped back from management in April, right back into sales, which, because I hadn't been selling for a while. So it's been a little bit of a transition. I'm kind of like a new agent again.
Like, I can only imagine the transition from like management to, because like I've been in management, but I've never been in real estate management. So like the transition from management back to sales must have been pretty interesting. I guess like we're like that happens a lot in the real estate space. People transition from corporate careers, waitresses, like they do different things and they kind of move into real estate. Like what, like, I guess like what are one or two things that like you've had to like kind of shift your perspective from, being out of production or like you semi in production to like kind of flipping that hat and going back into production, going back into sales? Like kind of like how did that like transitionary mindset kind of work for you? Because I think a lot of people listening to our podcast can kind of relate to that transitionary period from management or something else back into production.
Yeah, it's crazy because, being a manager or running a brokerage, you're on call all the time. Like I'm nights and weekends always, but I lost my weekends and my nights. I'm showing houses again. I'm doing all the things, which is a crazy thing because even when you're managing, being able to take a call is very different than like your whole Saturday is showing houses. So that was a huge one. And the other thing is like when you're managing, you have set tasks. You're paying the bills, you're like cutting commission checks, your contract review, all of those things that I'm not doing anymore. So I have to keep myself accountable. I had a set task list. Even when I was independent, I still had certain things I had to get done every day, 8 to 5. But yeah, I have to be accountable now. I have to get up every day and force myself to sit down and follow up with my leads and prospect. The same thing I've been telling everybody to do for 10 years. I'm now having to do it again. I'm just right back in it.
It's so funny you say that because it doesn't matter. Like like you said, when you're in management, you're following up with people, but it's different,
mm-hmm.
right? Like you're holding your salespeople, you're managing their emotions. You're managing a lot of sales is managing people's state and their mindset because it is hard. Like you said, you got to wake up and make your calls. You got to wake up and remind yourself, like, if I don't actually do the income producing activities, I don't have a paycheck anymore.
Right. Yeah. The paycheck came to a screeching halt.
It comes real fast too. Wake up on the 14th and you're like, oh.
And I had I'd been out of production probably for 3 years. So,
wow.
You've got to build that back up. I'm very fortunate that I have, an 18-year book of business and it started to just come, but you've got to stay on top of it. And it's the same thing you watch with your agents, in running a team or a brokerage or any of that. Like, what are you guys doing today? How much time are you putting into your real estate career? Like, what are you going to get back? What are you doing now for 100 days down the road?
I think it's really admirable when the team leads are leading by example, right? Every team, not every team, but a lot of teams come to a point where team leads start doing more team lead activity as things shift and as companies grow and, but like Cody's starting to see that we're starting to transition Cody out of sales more into the back end stuff so that we have more directed roles. And one of our EAs she said, "Oh, Vic, one of the sales guys is crushing you this month." I'm like, don't put that on me because like, if you want to play games, like you will not go home because I'll play, but like you guys will have zero access to me because my calendar will be stacked with appointments and it'll be great for everybody. But like, it's going to be hard because there is that balance between leadership and revenue.
It's a really hard one. And I found that when I owned my own brokerage, because, when you're a corporate brokerage, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
I had a salary. I was still selling. The last couple of years of owning my brokerage, I was not the top seller anymore. But I found the balance was I either invested in the brokerage to grow the brokerage or I was doing sales. It's a really hard balance to do both and do them well. There's a few people that can, but typically you kind of have to choose what path we're going to take as far as, are you in the sales or are you running the show?
And I think it's like, there's never like a one size fits all. And I like what you said there, where it's like, you got to kind of make the decision of what works best for you. And like, I think when you get clarity around like the model that you want to create, whether it's the mega team, whether it's the brokerage style, whether it's the team where you're doing 50% of the production, maybe you're doing 70-30 the production. But I think that everything at the end of the day comes back to like figuring out what model works best for you. But I'm curious, like from the model that you're creating right now, because like it sounds like you've done many different models. You've done the broker style model, you've done the corporate style model. What model are you adapting to right now? And like kind of like walk us through a little bit of your mindset around like the type of production you're looking to create, or the type of model you're looking to create as you kind of head into this new season of business.
I actually, as I've gone back into production, I realized, and especially we're in this, obviously our industry is in an upheaval right now. And, for seasoned professionals, it's not that rough. But I've got a team of newbie agents and, they're still struggling to find their footing just in the business. So as I'm watching this evolve, and I'm one of those agents that I stay so in the loop. I know everything that's going on. This NAR lawsuit is like, it's fascinating to me. I love all the pieces of it. Like I know so much more than many, many people just because I stay educated. And as I've walked through these last few months of being back in production and having this team, I really would love to start handing off my business to the team. And I want to teach and coach more. That's what I kind of have really, over the last few years, really decided that I love doing. I'm a CE instructor here for the state of Utah. I love that piece more, I think, than I do the sales. And you still have to do the sales because you have to stay relevant. You have to know those transactions and what's happening in the day to day. But I see myself stepping way back from sales and just passing that on to the team, because I have a team of like wildly talented people that are just like dynamic personalities. And I'm like, we can just, get them up and running. They're going to kill it.
How so? I believe in a model called the apprenticeship model for newbies, right? Like, this is my favorite coffee shop next door to my house. The owners are always here. Mom's here helping out. Mom owns like 40 restaurants with her family, so she understands the business and the process. But, like as I sit here and they're, like coffee shops have a decent amount of churn. They're adding new people. Other people are quitting, families, whatever. It's interesting to me that they don't let people just step in to doing everything all at once, right? Like when you sit in a business and you watch a business operate, you see the amount of energy that goes into every new person. And I believe that there's stepping stones, right? There's stairs to success in every company. Whereas in real estate, you get a license and it's like, right. Every other industry, financial, car sales, like everything else, you have a stepping stone where it's like, okay, you do this, then you get to here, and then you learn this, and then you get to here, and then you learn this, and then you get to here. But real estate's like the wild, wild west, and there's no like model that people can really follow. How are you getting your newbie agents? Because for newbie agents, it's actually great because they don't know the difference between pre-NAR, post-NAR. They just know right now, and now is now, and they're like, cool, this is what we're supposed to do. So what are you doing to give your agents the training so that they can be successsul?
One of the things I can say is like our group is very supportive and we don't let just anybody in. We've turned people down because you have to have the right personality, because once you get in, we're like the mob. You can't get out. Your family, we're showing up to funerals, we're showing up to your kids' weddings. Like we'll drive. So we're very particular in who we take. One, because you have to fit, because we're a very, very supportive group. And that's the one thing I could say, like, oftentimes people ask brokers, what makes you different? I was there for everybody all the time. I will answer my phone at 11 o'clock at night if I have to. And so we have weekly meetings and we really just are like, what do you need? What do you guys need? Because I know what I should be teaching you, right? But where are you feeling like you're missing out, or where are you feeling like you don't have the education? We kind of let them lead the ship as far as, we provide the structure of all the things. We've done all the trainings, we do CE, we do all of that. But it really is like, sometimes we just sit around and say, where can we help you fill the gaps? If you have gaps, somebody else has gaps. Like, let's figure out what everybody's doing. And we're very collaborative. And we co-market a lot together, but yet everyone has, their own individuality and autonomy to do whatever they want as well. So we kind of give everyone the freedom to do it very much. We're very untraditional in a team structure and leads and splits. Like, we're not taking any money. We're not making, our livelihood isn't this team by no means. We'd rather just grow really great real estate agents.
I want to shift gears here a little bit, and because you mentioned you've kept so much up to date with the NAR settlement, and I think that right now that that's the majority of the real estate industry is still talking about the NAR settlement. They're trying to navigate how to deal with this, how to explain compensation. There's a lot of shitty information out there. There's a lot of even in the Facebook group that we got connected in, a lot of bad information. A lot of people just have zero clue. And we inside of our real estate mastermind that we have, for our private clients, our mentor and our good friend Sharon Servatza came in and spoke about how to navigate all of this. So he's the president of Real Broker. He came in, spoke to our private clients literally yesterday about some of the just bad information that is being said across the industry, and people just not understanding the decoupling of commissions, not understanding what was actually written in the NAR settlement. How are you, as a team leader, as a manager, consuming this content that's coming in, but then making sure that right information is getting out in front of your agents? And what would you recommend to team leads that ultimately are responsible, or broker of records that are ultimately responsible to make sure that their agents have the right information, and B, make sure that they can actually communicate that information in the right way? What are you doing, and what do you recommend?
So this one's a tricky one because, not all brokers have all the information either. I'm watching brokers have terrible information. There is a set number of pages in the lawsuit talk about the practice changes. How many agents have actually read that? It talks about the exact practice changes. One big misconception that's gone around is that you have to have buyer agency to show a home. You don't. You have to have a written agreement. But everyone's saying you must have buyer agency. You don't have to have agency. You have to have a written agreement explaining what you're doing and if you're getting compensated for that. It's simple. There's so many misconceptions. So one, I would say if you feel like you aren't getting the information from your broker or your team leader, you probably should make a change. That would be the first thing. And I know that's kind of harsh. I'm super fortunate that here in Utah, one of my very best friends, and she's a business partner and some other stuff, is actually a litigating real estate attorney, one of the top attorneys here in Utah. So between the collaboration with our division of real estate and the local associations, and I mean, she represents numerous brokerages, some large here in Utah. She's got this nailed down. And I just we've spent months and months on the phone every morning, okay, what about this scenario? Let's talk through how that works, how we're going to, what are the best practices? Because in real estate, we all get freedom to run our businesses how we want. I can do an unrepresented, I can do a limited service agreement to go show a house where others may say, I'm not going to do that. I want agency at the curb, and I expect that I'm going to require that I'm going to get paid. For me, I don't think, unless I've built a relationship with you, I want to enter into fiduciary duty with you. So there's all these things, but I think the first thing agents need to do is go read the settlement, first and foremost. Read your forms. Everybody's forms have changed. Have you read your forms? I was in a class a week ago, and the instructor asked, have you read the forms? And 3 people raised their hand out of 50. People haven't even read the forms. They don't know what the changes are. Our purchase contract just changed. Some people don't even know that. Somebody said the other day, what section is that in? So if you don't know your forms and your laws and your rules, you are in a bad place.
How do you administer that as a team leader? Say, for example, a team leader is okay, I read the form. How are you, how do, and I want to ask both of you this question, because obviously, Vic, you're working with a ton of our clients, on a daily basis, really trying to train them up on like how to explain buyer compensation. If you're on the list side, how to kind of like chat with the buyer agent, how to chat with the buyer, like how to navigate this new world. Like, what are you guys like? How do team leads and how do brokers teach this stuff the right way so that agents actually consume the content and action it? Like, what do you think should be, what do you think is the answer with the consume and teach? Like, start with you, Vic, and then kind of move you to you, Reggan.
I cheated my way through life because I sold Cutco at 17 and we had to do presentations for people to sell a set of knives, right? We had to cut penny, we had to cut leather, we had to cut rope, we had to get their knives out, we had to do all these things, right? And when I got into real estate, my old team lead was like, or not team lead, but broker was like, oh, we don't need to do a buyer presentation. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we're in a competitive market. It's $800,000 entry level pricing. Like, there's inspections and appraisals. Like, I'm going to be like, my first listing had 16 offers on it. And I was like, okay, well, this is kind of wild. Like, the market's different than when I was flipping houses. So like, I need to prepare my people to write offers. So like, I need to sit down with them so that we don't go look, because I'm lazy. I don't want to show people 50 houses, write 6 offers, and they lose all of them, and then they like fire me to go work with. So I'm really lazy. I just want to write one offer. I want to win, and I want to go guns blazing. But in order to do that, what do I have to do? Well, I have to make sure that they're prepared to write an offer where you're basically waiving all your, and like, waiving contingencies wasn't a big thing, but I told all my clients, I'm like, look, we could do we can either, like a car, we can prepare and we could do a pre-inspection, or we can try to get the car under contract and then negotiate afterwards. I'm like, but that just seems ass backwards to me. And so we did buyer presentations for everybody. I mean, we did thousands of them. We didn't sell thousands of homes. We sold a lot of houses, but we never had a year where we sold as many homes as we did buyer presentations. And all my friends were like, oh, this is so dumb. You're wasting time. Just go open doors. And I'm like, I'm not Redfin. I'm not Redfin. I'm not going to open doors. I'm not going to show houses. Like, I'm not going to go tour. I think this whole this Zillow touring agreement it's the demise of our industry right now. Were there exceptions to the rule where we showed some houses and then we sat down for coffee? Absolutely. But our goal was to sit down, educate, and then decide. Like, my agents would come to me, Cody, right? And Reggan, you probably have this too. Like $1.6 million buyer. They didn't want to follow our process. I'm like, then they don't work with us. They're like, but it's 1.6. I said, it's 1.6 if they close.
Right.
But if they're not trusting to follow you, there's no freaking money there, guys. And it takes people a while to get their head wrapped around, like, how many times do you want to
chasing
versus how many times do you want to attract the right buyers? And they're like, but it's 1.6. I said, it's not 1.6 until it's in the bank. I said, I'd rather you go work with a $600,000 person that trusts and loves you, that's going to refer you and review you and do everything, versus you go chasing a 1.6 that thinks you're too stupid or think our process is too difficult, right? Because maybe you're not ready to work with a $1.6 million buyer because they're too sophisticated, and that's okay. You can get better. But the 600,000 person's like, oh my God, we bought our condo. The last agent did nothing. I love your processes. And so, like me, if somebody comes and works with us inside of Triz, I sit down with them. I have a 60 to 90 minute conversation with them. I learn about their business. I learn about their shortcomings. I learn where they want to go, where they're at right now. Most people are trying to get people off the phone as fast as possible. And that's great if you want to have like a short-term business. But like, we have people that we met 20 years ago that still say, oh my God, I have my knives. I love my knives, Vic. I can't believe you were my knife guy. Like,
it's relationships.
Yeah, you don't get that if you're trying to rush the process.
Correct. I think, the other thing is, like, we do have to know our value. And 18, 19, 20 years in, I know my value. I can speak to that. And it's not opening doors for you. That's not my value. I would say my value is in keeping you out of litigation, contracts, getting you the house, negotiations.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting thing. But I think the one thing I'm trying to teach everybody is we don't, like to what you're saying, we don't have to work with everybody. Not everybody is our client. And we don't have to, like, if they don't want to pay 3% to you as a buyer's agent, you don't have to choose to work with them. You can say, okay, you're not my ideal client either. I'm moving on. And have the, it's a hard thing to do, especially if you're new and you're hungry. And, we all know there's times when it's paycheck to paycheck. But I think there's way more value in knowing, where the good client is and where your time is best spent.
Well, I always laugh. New agents, I won't work anything less than X percentage. And I'm like, first off, your value is being set by somebody else. Like, these percentages you throw out as that's a full commission, like, that's crazy. My friend or one of our mutual friends just went out and bought a $4 million plane. No, how, 4 million or 14 million?
14.
Sorry. A lot of, like, a few extra dollars, big deal. He got his salesperson got a 7.5% commission. My cousin just got a new job selling. I was like, bro, I might start working with you. He started selling the software that he used to produce. He just closed a $36 million deal, took him 9 months, and he's getting 2.5% of that, right? Like, who says that 2% or 1% or 9% is, like, this thing about, like, I know my value. It's interesting because we're taking a number that's become kind of standardized 20 years ago. The last time that agents made 6% as a whole community was 1994.
That's crazy.
Right? So we don't even know what we're, like, the industry's lying to themselves around compensation because they're so boxed in. And I've seen thousands of commission reports. Like, all of our clients have a tracker that I can see, and I see what they get paid on each deal, right? There's some that are making 4.5%, right? Like Molly gets 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. She collects a bonus. There's others that are in the $1.5 million to $3 million price point. They get 2 to 2.75, right? Everything's negotiable. But, like, if you're a brand new agent or you're not really good, right? And just be real with yourself. If you've done 3 transactions this year, you don't have a ton of, it doesn't mean you don't care, but you don't have a ton of experience, right? Like, I'm going to go look at an eye doctor to do LASIK surgery. I'm 42. I want a guy that's done 100,000 procedures. Right. I don't want a guy that's like 6 months out of college. I'm not. And if that's all I could afford, that guy's probably going to be cheaper than the guy that's got 100,000 under his belt. Agents
might
get
lose
smart.
your eyes.
Yeah, like, you guys get smart. Like, agents, get smart. You need reps. You need experience, right? We charge a lot more now in our companies than we did 16 months ago. Why? We're better.
Uh-huh.
If you have somebody that's like, hey, I can afford to pay you $8,000 and you haven't made any money in 2.5 months, take the fucking money. No, I can't do it. I need to get 16 because that's what 3%. Who said 3% is your, like, it's mind boggling to me, right? Like, I don't know. Don't get me started.
No, I said the same thing. Like, we have a couple clients who, they're in higher price markets like LA. And I'm like, why wouldn't you take this rental? Like, the rental's going to pay you a couple grand.
Like $5,000 for
the rental's going to pay.
Yeah,
exactly. The rental's going to, pay you $5,000. You're going to make $5,000 and then you can reinvest that $5,000 back into your business. It's just like,
and then you have a buyer next year.
100%. Like, it's like, so just something along the way, and like kind of wrapping up here, like, I have one final question for you, Reggan, but like something that I find happens often throughout the real estate industry is like we take what people say so often at face value. If you were talking to a brand new recruit, or you're talking to a seasoned veteran that maybe they're down on their luck, because there's a lot of people, we chat with a lot of agents that just are down on their luck with this new post-NAR settlement, and even prior to post-NAR settlement. Like, it's like there's always the ebbs and flows of real estate. Like, what is the best piece of advice that you're giving your agents that are actually helping them kind of like go either A, take their business to the next level, or B, the advice you would give to somebody that would just help them kind of like shift perspective and allow them to go on that trajectory or that roadmap towards success? Like, what advice would you give them?
2 things. I would say invest in your business. Some of that is financial. I think you have to spend some money to make some money. And that's different for everybody. Like, I don't make calls. But I know agents that make calls. I've got people on my team that will door knock. I don't door knock. So that's different for everybody. So find out what you're good at, what you're comfortable with, and invest in that, in growing that piece for yourself. And the other thing is, it's an instant gratification world. I'm as guilty as the next person. This business is a marathon business. It is not a sprint, and it is 100% relationship based. So get out there and make real connections. That is what's going to pay tenfold.
Reggan, this was a ton of fun today. If somebody were to want to reach out to you, maybe they want to have a conversation with you, maybe they're in the Utah area, it could be agent referral, because maybe they want to join your team. Where is the best place we can send them for them to have a conversation with you?
You can email me. It's just Reggan at regganjastram.com, or you can grab me on Instagram, just Reggan Jastram. Google me. I'm
Googler.
Google me.
You'd be shocked at how many agents can't even find themselves on Google.
Yeah. Well, if you can't find yourself on Google, then contact me. I'll help you with that. I want to say thank you for listening to another episode of the Our Agent Podcast. Hope you got a ton of value today. There's tons of great nuggets in this podcast. If you got any value, all that Vikram and I ask is that you leave us a review on iTunes. Helps us reach more people. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Share this with a colleague. Share this with a friend in the real estate space. Let's help them get the right information in front of their noses so that they can have the best year yet. I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.